Good morning, everyone. I don't know if I can figure this all out, but yeah, Jane asked me just to give an overview of kind of the history of this group, both the NCERA-217 and the ADMS task force, and ADMC. I guess because I'm one of the older members of the group, but that also means I have kind of a faulty memory by now, so I may get a lot of this wrong. And there's plenty of people in the room that can correct me on it, I'm sure. So anyway, I'm going to go back and see how we got started. And it really goes back to this picture here, and I'm sure most of you recognize this as a picture of Gulf hypoxia. They've been following that for a number of years, and really that's what got us going. If I can do this correctly. Apparently I can't. Or it's not doing anything. Good. All right, so they've been tracking this in the Gulf for a number of years, starting in the 80s, as you can see on this picture here, and kind of going along. 5,000-10,000, it was a square kilometers or something, until 1993, and you see it really shot up, and it's stayed up ever since 1993. What happened in 1993? Can anyone remember? Yeah, flood. The entire Midwest was flooding that year, and that really drove a lot of nitrate down to Mississippi into the Gulf, and it's never recovered since. So it really was kind of a state change at that point, and it's been a problem ever since. And that caused a great deal of concern among many people. We also had nitrate problems locally for a number of years. I pulled out this newspaper clipping because it's dated 1998. So you see, this has been going on for a while. This is not a new issue, and it continues as being a problem. But as part of that hypoxia issue that was going down there, the so-called dead zone, which got a lot of press, was concerned many people. They did form the Mississippi River Gulf of Mexico Watershed Nutrient Task Force. And this was 1998 when they were chartered. One of the first things they did as a chartered organization, and this was an organization of federal and state department people, was to form a scientific advisory board or scientific review board to do an assessment, scientific assessment of what the causes are of hypoxia. They met, they came up with, I think there was actually 5 reports. I show 4 here. Probably this one in front, topic 5 was the most important as far as regarding drainage. To look at the issue, see, well, is it a problem and what's causing the problem? And they came back with several suggestions. First one, which no surprise to any of us who've been working this area for a while, is that drainage, artificial drainage, is a substantial contributor of nitrate to surface waters. We knew that. They identified that correctly. Some of the possible fixes that they included, which wasn't really their role, but they did identify some things. One was to increase drain spacing. That would help reduce nitrate, and that was courtesy of Eileen, wherever you are. Some of your CPAC research that shows that they increase the spacing in tiles and nitrate loads down. And so that was one of their suggestions. They had, because there was a lot of wetland ecologists on the review team, wetland riparian buffers were one of the things that they were highlighting. And then the last one was reducing end fertilizer rates, especially that insurance nitrogen that all farmers were putting on. Get rid of that, that would solve the problem. So that was some of the suggestions that came out of that. So the task force took that scientific assessment and did their first action plan in 2001. This is the cover of it here. And some of their recommendations then were quite astounding to most of us in the Midwest anyway, is they were recommending a 40% reduction in nitrogen cut going down to the Gulf. And that's a big decrease, and remember we've already identified that tile drainage is a leading source of nitrate, so that was really targeting right back to agriculture and tile drainage, that we're going to have to come up with a huge reduction in nitrate being delivered from those tiles. So that was causing a lot of red flags in the drainage industry, the drainage research community as well. So in 2002, the ASAE meeting was in Chicago that year, and there was a lot of discussion about drainage, hypoxia, what we could do. Do we switch the conversation around where drainage is not a problem, but drainage is part of the solution? And these 8 gentlemen got together at the end of that meeting to kind of discuss these issues. I think you probably recognize some of these names. Dale Buck, Norm Fossey, Jim Faust, we're with ARS. Wayne Skaggs, we saw last night. Pat Willie was NRCS. But anyway, they came together and they said, well, yeah, we need to get out in front of this whole issue. So the decision then was to come together and have a meeting of a larger group of people, and that was what we consider to be the first meeting of the ADMS task force. And that was in Ames. It was in 2002. So we're just a little past the 15-year anniversary of our first meeting. There were 26 attendees there at that meeting. I list 10 here that some of you might recognize, because they're still current members or have been active with this group here. Ramesh, who's our administrative advisor, was at that meeting. So was Charlie, who's here today. Gary Sands is not here with us today, or Mark Diedrich, but they're typically at our meetings. Saw Wayne again last night. So, and I think Steve Baker's here today too. So we had a lot of people that were there 15 years ago are here yet today. And so what we were really concentrating on, the thing that Wayne was really driving us for at that time was, they've been doing controlled drainage in North Carolina since the 70s, and been seeing a lot of success in reducing nitrate losses, and he was really adamant that we should be doing that in the Midwest. So controlled drainage or drainage water management, we had like a whole half afternoon debate on whether or not we should call it controlled drainage or drainage water management. A lot of people didn't like controlled drainage. They thought that would make the farmer think that the federal government was coming in to control the drainage, and so they didn't like that term. So we started using drainage water management. I've gone back to using controlled drainage for other reasons, but that was one of the things. The other thing was shallow drainage too. Typically, Iowa, Minnesota, our drains are down at 4 feet deep. If we raise them to 3 feet, we know that we'll get less nitrate coming out to them. So that was another aspect of both research and trying to demonstrate that to the powers that be. Anyway, we came up with the Agricultural Drainage Coalition. We had a preamble and everything. It was a really nice document, but I just pulled out the initiatives that this group was going to support. And I kind of highlighted some of these there. We supported reducing nitrate loading from 20 to 40%, implementing sustainable drainage systems, going to controlled drainage, implement that across the Midwest, monitoring new systems, so we knew it would be great, new designs for drainage, management. It's going to take a number of years to really test those out, so we at least had 10 years here in this document. And of course, research and technology done for better agricultural drainage. So those were kind of the goals for this group. You can see that this group was considered a technical working group of the USDA Partnership Management Team, the PMT. PMT was a group of NRCS, ARS, and CSRES, which is now NIFA, that brought together scientists and some of the headquarters people to look at problems that those three agencies are concerned with and should be working together trying to solve. And so we are a offshoot of that PMT group, which it quit functioning 10 years ago or something. So we're probably the last vestige of the PMT. Anyway, we started meeting because we were trying to get out in front of this hypoxia issue. We're trying to get information, especially out into decision makers' hands, so that they can see that drainage isn't just the problem, it could be the solution. And you probably can't read this list, but these are the places we met. You can see early on, we met quite often. We met 3 times in 2003, 4 times in 2004, 4 times in 2005, etc. We were meeting quite often, trying to get our act together, to get this information together, get into a forum that was usable by decision makers, by the Hypoxia Task Force, and try to put a better spin on the whole drainage issue. You can see we've been all over the place. We started out in Ames, but then the next year was Columbus, and then Champaign, St. Paul. I think we've been to Purdue perhaps the most times, but someone's talking about going back to Fargo. Next year we were in Fargo in 2011. If you can't remember that one. But we've been all over the place. We've been in Quebec. In Quebec we met in conjunction with the ASAE meeting there too. At any rate, that's a lot of meetings, and we were trying to get a little concerned about us. For us bench scientists, that's quite expensive, going to 4 meetings a year. Even though most were in the Midwest, you could drive to them. And so one thing, Eileen Sedivko was on sabbatical, and she was in our lab back in 2003. And so we were thinking, well, we'd really like to get maybe a little more emphasis for this whole group. And one idea would be we should get a research organization going, a research and extension group developed to help support travel for these groups. And so we got together. There had been a drainage group historically. I know Ramos was part of that. When I first came to Ames in 1990, I think they had a meeting in Ames that year, so I went on a field trip. And I thought good research was going on. But as was Wayne Skaggs was saying last night, the 80s weren't a good time for drainage. Swamp Buster Act came out in 1985. Drainage was looked at as being kind of the evil that drained our wetlands and was causing a lot of issues there. And so a lot of the universities were losing interest in it. ARCS is no longer in the drainage business. They weren't doing any designs for drainage anymore. And so it kind of petered out. And so that group stopped meeting, disbanded essentially. So in 2003, Eileen and I got together while she was there, and we wrote a new proposal. We decided to do an extension rather than a research proposal because we thought it was easy to do an extension. And so that's what we did, and we were successful. So that was the first NCR, back then called NCERA-217. You can see the title is there, and that ran for 5 years, from 2004 to 2009. And we essentially met at the same time as the ADMS was. Structured just like it is today. As one of those things, we're meeting either back to back or just kind of mingled together. Since then, that group's been recharged for another 5 years. You might have wrote that one, I can't remember. And it's been done again. And now we're coming up, see 2019, the end of it, so we're going to be trying to, at this meeting, I say, to decide who's going to put together the next proposal so we can continue that group for another 5 years too. Because it really helps gain visibility for this group when you've got a regional committee together. Especially thought regional North Central, but we bring in people from all over the United States who are interested in drainage. So as soon as the science assessment came out in 2001, there was controversy on that. They recommended a 40% reduction in nitrogen. Well, as soon as that came out, the USDA came out with their white paper and said, no, it's not nitrogen, phosphorus. And so this went up for this year. So the next thing that the task force did is they had another science assessment put together. This time it was by the EPA Science Advisory Board. They look at this thing again and tell us, is it nitrogen or is it phosphorus? So that came out in 2007. I think they did a much better job. The first one, we had a lot of biological scientists, wetland scientists. We had a lot of people in there that didn't understand drainage, didn't understand agriculture, I thought. This time they brought in some people. We still didn't get any drainage engineers on that committee, but we did get some people in there from the Midwest, understood drainage, understood the importance of drainage, agriculture, and I think they did a much better job at this one. But their final findings on this was, well, yeah, it's nitrogen, but it's also phosphorus. And it's not just 40% reduction, it's 45% reduction that you've got to come up with. So now the problem is more than double for what we have to do out there. But it does set the roadmap for what we did. Based on that, then the task force, the Hypoxia task force, came up with a new Gulf Hypoxia Action Plan in 2008. You see the cover here. They had like 13 goals within that. But I think the most important one for us, the one that we could really impact, was this one, where the real emphasis was all right, you basin states, the states that are in the Mississippi River drainage, especially the ones that are touching Mississippi and Ohio rivers themselves, you need to come up with your state plans for how you're going to reduce nitrogen and phosphorus, help us meet that goal of 45% reduction. So that's what the states started to do. And that was at the level that we could really impact. So that was scientists at the state. A lot of times it's people here in this room help come up with those plans. And so we could really look at the breadth of drainage and how we could improve those plans and how drainage could become part of the solution rather than part of the problem. Of course, at that time too, other than the task force finding that it is phosphorus reduction as well as nitrogen, we were getting issues with in Lake Erie. That's going back to phosphorus. So without phosphorus, it's just as important to reduce the nitrogen from tile drains because drainage water and phosphorus being identified as real problems here. So I talked about the state plans. This is the one from Iowa. Mississippi came up with their first one. I wasn't really impressed with it because it's mostly a policy document. They were talking about any kind of scientific or practice that could be adopted by farmers in Mississippi for reduction. One here in Iowa, I thought we did a real good job on it, and we specifically identified practices that could help reduce nitrogen and phosphorus losses. We also came up with estimates of how many of these you had to put into the landscape and what it would cost, how many billions of dollars it would cost over how many years before we could actually solve or bring down the load leaving Iowa of NNP at 45%. And because a lot of the work that we're doing as a group, and the fact that some of us were on this review panel or science assessment, now we got a much broader role that drainage could contribute, including controlled drainage, bioreactors, saturated buffers, even denaturation wetlands, cover crops, which we've been able to document to reduce nitrate coming out of tile. So a much wider range of practices that could be used to help reduce NNP leaving the state of Iowa. And this group is still functioning. So as we develop new practices to help reduce NNP, they can be added. And the other states have done, very similar. Examples of some of the things that we were able to do, because again, remember when that group first got together, we were going to look at shallow drainage and we were going to look at controlled drainage in the Midwest. Neither had really been looked at very closely in the Midwest to see how the impact it could make. In this case, it was primarily nitrogen we were looking at. I think Jaynes, who's not here, and Matt did some research on shallow drainage. We didn't do a whole lot with the shallow drainage, but we did do some. Most of us were looking at the controlled drainage, or controlled drainage, drainage water management. So back in 2006, with the leadership of the ADMC, we were able to put together this says regional CIG, it was actually a national CIG grant, that brought together scientists across the Midwest, I think from Iowa, Indiana, Illinois, Iowa, and Minnesota, to look at controlled drainage in their own backyard to see does it work in our soil, in our climates. A lot of those studies were highlighted here in a special edition coming out of the Journal of Soil Water Conservation. It worked out as well as we liked. We could see the same amount of reductions in nitrate loads that we were seeing in North Carolina, but really to sell the practice, we were hoping for obvious yield boosts to the practice so that the farmers would be more amenable to adopting it. We haven't seen a real consistent yield increase for the practice across the Midwest. So that was a little disappointing because it doesn't help adoption of the practice, but certainly from a water quality perspective, practice certainly does work. Just to list a couple other accomplishments, and I think Ben and Jaynes sent out a sheet on Monday or Tuesday that had a lot more of these things, but I just did some of those that I highlighted that I can just pull out of my memory. Two of them here are shown here. These were multi-state extension publications. The one on the right came out, I think, in 2004, 2006. The one on the left just came out in 2016. So these were multi-state extension publications. They've gotten a lot of use. They've been very helpful when we go out and talk to the public, talk to farmers, talk to action agencies, bring up the challenges and the potential for these different practices. I also highlight these because they're both award-winning extension publications. So that was kind of neat too, that we were able to get recognition on the quality of these publications that came out. A lot of other things. We already talked about the national CID that came out on controlled drainage that we did in conjunction with the ADMC. The ADMC also came out in 2011 and got themselves a CAG grant looking at saturated buffers in the Midwest. That one ran for 3 years, and they've been extending it since then. With FSA, the corn cap, which is a large $25 million grant, really wasn't directly an offspring from this group, but many of the players in that came from this group. A lot of the facilities they were using, facilities that were put in place because of the drainage work that we were doing here, and that was been a very successful grant, which ended in 2017. Transforming drainage, I mean, it was taking place yesterday. Again, it was based kind of on the backbone of the drainage work that we've been doing here, and that's an AFRI grant that runs through 2020. And we just started a new one, this Impacts of the Partnership Management, which is a FBAR funded grant that started in 2017, and Matt's going to talk about that during his presentation. That's later tomorrow. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. We've been very successful in kind of taking our expertise and leveraging that into additional research money. Other things, NRCS started their Ag Drainage Management Initiative. Started in 2010. I don't know if it's still going. I saw Paul back there. He probably knows better than I do. But that was another important thing where NRCS really got behind the whole idea of using managing your drainage to be able to lower nitrate or nutrient losses. We talked a little bit about it yesterday, but we also helped revise the 5x4 standard. Also, the Conservation Practice Standard 604 was newly developed for saturated buffers. 605 standard for denitrification bioreactors. Those are all direct products of the work of this group, helping NRCS put those things together. And then finally, one thing that some people might not be realize that we were able to successfully petition NASS to get drainage back onto the farm survey. So they had dropped asking anything about drainage back in 1978, I think was the last time they talked about it. And so we were able to lobby NASS, talk to our partners, have them lobby NASS, and so in 2012, we got 2 questions put back onto the farm survey about drainage. Now that's part of that survey, which is kind of nice when we start tracking drainage again nationally. In the interest of time, I'm trying to skip through all this until we get to here. So we've been very successful as a group for the last 15 years. And every year that we meet, Ramesh, who's an administrative advisor for us, kept on pestering us. Well, you guys should put in for this award here, which is the Experiment-Based Inspection Award. So if these regional committees get together and we're doing such a good job, we should put ourselves or nominate ourselves for one of these awards. I mean, it's kind of nice to be recognized. There's $5,000 available for travel for Ramesh and whoever our chair is that day to go receive the award if we win it. And then, but there is $10,000 also for the committee to use. So we could use that money for whatever I guess that we would like to do to help further our activities. And you can see the criteria there. So finally this year, we took Ramesh up on his pleading, and we submitted a proposal to the North Central region for our committee. This is just a project summary here, you see. And I heard just last Friday from Lori Christensen, who is our actual current technical chair for the NCERA-217, that our project has met the cut at the North Central region. So our project that they're sending forward to the national group to consider. So we made the first cut, so now I guess we're competing against maybe 7 other proposals for different committees around the country. And so we're in the running, so that's nice. They offered actually to have the Illinois technical people take a look at our proposal and kind of sign it up. It was written by scientists, not PR. So they're going to do that for us, and then we'll get that submitted, and we'll keep our fingers crossed. Maybe something to do with it. But anyway, it's nice to be in the running, recognizing the work that we do. And with that, I'm going to end, hopefully on time.
We got about 2 minutes, so we want to really stay on time because we have a lot really packed in.